Hello, delicious and magical human. Welcome to episode 83. As always, Sunny Bonani, Dumalang, Goeie aand, afternoon, bon dia. So, in today's episode, I felt called and inspired to chat about a very interesting dream that came to me probably a couple of months ago, maybe even a year ago. And it's at the forefront of my awareness. And today I was just listening to some podcasts in the spirit of growth and expansion. And I was listening to The Diary of the CEO with Steve Bartlett, and the human who, I guess, he's a Google employee, and he's written this book about his view, his perspective, and take on AI. And what AI is either going to bring or take away from humanity, I guess, is the crux of how I'm interpreting it. And if you're called to watch it, go watch it. It's a worthwhile listen. I actually have only listened to the first 22 minutes of a certain clip of the episode. I do have the entire podcast there to listen to at another point in time. But I did just hear this little portion or this section that came from the podcast. And it really made me think of that dream that I had around a year ago. So within this particular dream that I had, I awoke within the dream and I dreamt that I was in the toilet. Dreams take you to wild, crazy places, people. So I was in the loo having a number 2 or a number 1. I'm not really sure. I don't know if it's because I really did need to maybe go to the loo. but here I was in my dream in the loo. And I could sense that I was being observed and watched. In fact, I wasn't the only one that was being observed and watched. As the dream started to unfold, I realized that I was not the only one there. I was part of what almost felt like a swarm of humans. And we were all being monitored and tracked and traced in some way. And this AI, I'm going to call it that because that's what it kind of felt like to me, was observing all of my bodily functions as I was in the loo. And I started to become very consciously aware of how it was starting to influence my behavior as I was in the toilet. And it wasn't only influencing my behavior, but it was influencing many people's behavior around me. So within the dream, I was having none of it. I proceeded to want to leave. And you know how dreams are? Kind of like a bit of a Rambo scene ensued, right? And I was endeavoring to get away from whatever was observing me. And I didn't want it to track, trace, influence me at all. And I remember that there was literally a Rambo scene. There were like things happening, like a bit of a warfare going on. And I was running and trying to escape and make my way away from what I had just awoken to. And the next thing I remember and realize was that it was like the Terminator. I was running away from this artificial, interesting, that's a wasp that just landed on me. So yes, I was running away from this artificial intelligence that was now wanting to hunt me down because I wasn't subservient to what it was requiring or requesting or demanding from me. And the next thing I remember, I just managed to jump into this elevator that was rising above. And I remember that as I jumped into the elevator, there was another kind of, let's call it a robot with AI functionality that jumped into the lift with me. But this one was like different. It was like it had a different vibe about it. It looked a little bit different and it definitely felt different. And the next thing I know, there is this other AI robot that is in the elevator with me, and it's defending and protecting me and helping to ward off the Terminator type of AI that are wanting to come and claim me. And I remember that we got to some point, either it was going up the lift or down the lift, but we managed to escape and we both stepped out. And there was like a better level of tranquility and peace. It was almost like that feeling of like the war was just over. Like things were still quite fresh in the air, you know, that residual war was still hovering. But there was definitely a sense and a feeling of something having been over or me having removed myself from it. Now, I know this might sound like such a crazy and odd story and dream to be sharing, but what it did remind me of, and what it did, I guess, illuminate within my mind, my awareness, and my consciousness was that after that dream, I kind of had this sense or this feeling that there's going to be two directions that AI goes in. It's going to be the direction where the importance of humanity is lessened to the questionability of, well, you know, why are humans actually here? What's the value of a human being? Just like perhaps humans look at chimpanzees, not all humans, some humans look at chimpanzees and they're like, oh, inferior race, you know, what do they add? Nothing. And AI developed this degree or level of superiority where it wanted to control humanity and create slaves out of them. Imagine, you know, the Matrix scene, I guess, if you can think of the machines controlling humanity and using humans, because we are electrical beings, as power sources, little batteries, and that's all they saw us as worth having and being. And then they populated our minds with these programs and these memories that would keep us subservient and wouldn't make us challenge the machines, right? And then the second option is how we collaborate with AI. And we honor the value that they bring, and they honor the value that we bring as humans with our own unique essence and magic and wonder. And there being a real reverence for humanity because of our ability to feel emotions naturally, because of our unique sense of creativity and ability to create. Not that AI wouldn't, they would, but they would be doing it in a different way. And I guess that's where the reverence comes in. It's like we can all create, but the way we create is all different. And there's an appreciation for that difference. There's an honoring in that difference. And there's ultimately a celebration of that difference from all spheres and spaces of life. And the goal is ultimately to just, I guess, bring heaven to earth and to make this earthly realm the most magical and heavenly space and place consciously possible. So yes, I really did remember that dream. I've always remembered that dream. It really was one of those ones that just really stay in the forefront of your awareness. But after listening to today's little podcast or little clip from the podcast around the conversation that was taking place, it was so fascinating to just hear the similarities of what this human was sharing with Steve Bartlett and how that prompted me to just draw literally a direct correlation with my dream. in terms of AI offering and facilitating the utopia, the heaven, or facilitating the hell and the desecration of humanity. So I'm optimistic. According to my dream, heaven prevails, and we partner with AI in a really transformative and empowering way for the whole of humanity, one that extends beyond and outside of wars or slave mentality or power and dominance for one but not for all. So I just felt called to share that today. I felt so inspired by my dream, and this podcast that I was listening to really made the dream so much more tangible and powerful. And sometimes we get messages or we have these dreams that upon awakening, if we're fortunate enough to remember it and recall it, we're always like, what the heck was that about? And perhaps a couple of days, weeks, months, or even years can go by, and there'll be something that sparks the remembrance, or consciously or unconsciously triggers something because of the download that we've literally received within our dream state. Nothing is ever coincidental. So yes, magical human, I guess today's episode is about reminding you of the power of your dreams, the power and importance to dream, and to honor the uniqueness and the gifts that come from all species and all walks of life and all aspects and elements. We've been, I feel, preconditioned to believe that something is always like right or wrong. But there's always like the middle of both, We've been made to believe that there's a left and a right, the wrong, the right, the wrong. And that always lands us in some kind of pickle. Not the nice kind either, guys. So I guess it's also a reminder for us to honor the unique essence of all that we come across. And I guess as I'm saying this, my monstars, which I create, I guess it's a form of expression as my art. Art is another form of language. We get this language that we speak, the spoken word, which in my personal opinion, and as the days progress, I'm starting to realize is very limiting. And art is just another form of expression. Art facilitates you to express things in ways that the spoken word cannot. So if you've seen any of my magical pieces of art, particularly my monstars, and I'd say all of it is actually about the same sentiment and theme. It's all about fostering, celebrating, inviting, and reveling in the unique essence and magic that we are all here to bring on an individuated level. So we can come together as a collective and a whole in this paradigm and this dimension of creativity. We each have a role and purpose and little special tune and melody to play in the symphony of life. And provided we honor that, there'll be balance. There'll be a beautiful harmony. When we stop honoring that uniqueness within each of us, that's where the disharmony and the symphony goes a bit like ajar. Sometimes it's a bit too high pitched or too low, and the chorus is just one big fuck up, actually. So yes, today's just a reminder to honor that uniqueness, Start practicing it. Doesn't mean you have to agree with the way someone is or the way they see the world or view it. But if they are truly and genuinely expressing themselves in a way that they feel is most natural or most authentic for themselves, become curious about that. Question rather than condemn. Discuss rather than judge. I don't know. I'm still learning as well, guys. I'm still learning as well. So yes, Magical Human. It's 15:42 as I look up at the timer. And I'm feeling called to say that this episode is a wrap. As always, continue to sow those seeds. Allow for the flow and magic of life to find you and guide you so that you may ultimately grow, illuminate, and glow. Until tomorrow's episode, keep it real, keep it swanky, keep it spanky, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye now.